A city torn apart.
No justice! No peace!
In the center of a political storm.
What gave them the right to attempted murder on my child?
Kenosha, Wisconsin, the latest flashpoint in our nation's summer of racial tension after Jacob Blake was shot in the back 7 times by a police officer, sparking protests.
No justice!
And a deadly shooting. The Democratic nominee Joe Biden.
So we got to give a chance to change things, and we can.
And President Trump.
A thing like this should never happen.
Both visiting the city within days of each other. One emphasizing healing and racial justice.
If I get elected president, I promise you, there will be a National Commission on Policing out of the White House.
The other doubling down on his message of law and order.
We should talk about the kind of violence that we've seen in Portland and here and other places. It's tremendous violence.
2 trips to Kenosha, offering a sharp contrast in style and strategy. While on the ground today, Biden met with Blake's family for over an hour.
What I came away with was the overwhelming sense of resilience and optimism.
He also spoke to Jacob Blake on the phone from the hospital.
He talked about how nothing was going to defeat him, how whether he walked again or not, he was not going to give up.
Jacob Blake's sister, Letitra Weidman, was at that meeting with Biden.
It definitely hurts my heart what has happened to my brother. In order for me to continue to speak out for my brother to get justice and many other African-American people, I have to kind of just be strong and make sure that this thing does not keep happening to the next generation.
The Jacob family and their attorney, Benjamin Crump, want the officers who shot Jacob held accountable.
Justice is an illusion because justice would be for her brother not to have been shot 7 times in the back and be paralyzed. So all the family can pray for now is accountability.
I'm tired of protesting, to be honest. I want to start the real work, the work that it's going to take to get justice and equality for all men in this country, like our Constitution says.
While in Kenosha, Biden also met with members of the community, still reeling from the violence that has rocked their city. Portia Bennett, an organizer for Black Lives activists Kenosha, demanded police treat Black Americans equally.
We hear so many people saying, oh, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you that, but we have yet to see action.
Local business owner Barb DeBerg describing how looters tried to burn her store down.
We have never, ever seen anything as devastating.
Biden denounced the violence in Kenosha and other cities.
So regardless how angry you are, if you loot or you burn, you should be held accountable as someone who does anything else, period.
But President Trump has been hammering the former vice president on the issue for weeks, including at a campaign stop tonight in Pennsylvania.
For the entire summer, Biden was silent as far-left rioters viciously attacked law enforcement in Democrat-run cities hall, burned down businesses, terrorized civilians, and just recently marched through the streets chanting "Death to America."
Well, I think Joe Biden was caught with his guard down a little bit. Biden now has struck back very, very hard at the notion that he condones the violence with a very simple statement. And he says, do I look like a radical socialist who's, is a friend of rioters? And that may be his best argument.
Biden's trip comes on the heels of the president's visit on Tuesday, where he toured a building destroyed in the protests.
We have to condemn the dangerous anti-police rhetoric. It's getting more and more. It's very unfair.
What's happened in Kenosha really stands right now as center stage of this great debate we're having in the country about Black life in America, about Black lives mattering.
Ahead of his visit, the president also defended Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old charged with killing 2 demonstrators and injuring a 3rd in the protests following Blake's shooting.
I guess he was in very big trouble. He probably would have been killed.
When pressed about the demonstrations against racial injustice sweeping the nation, he continued to hone in on the violence.
Do you believe systemic racism is a problem in this country?
Well, you just keep getting back to the opposite subject. We should talk about the kind of violence that we've seen in Portland and here and other places. It's tremendous violence.
God bless y'all.
Blake's family says they hope that Jacob's shooting finally ends what they see as a cycle of violence against Black people.
I'm hopeful, but at the same time, I'm numb. I definitely want to see the change, but it's going to take more than just me. It's going to take you, it's going to take the whole world, the whole country.
And joining me now, ABC News contributor Elsie Granderson and Republican strategist Sarah Fagan. Sarah, let's begin with you. Wisconsin, as we know, is a state President Trump won by a hair in 2016. Do you think his law and order message is resonating with voters there?
I do think it's resonating. I think it's largely been very helpful in the context of swing voters and, of course, his base. Whenever there is a tragic shooting, both sides tend to get very emotional. You have, understandably, Black Americans very emotional about that. But then when you see violence and people lose property, naturally, a more swing audience that's focused more on law and order message also gets their back up. And so right now we're in a situation where everybody's put on a jersey and nobody's really thinking about how do we move forward as a country on some of the systemic racism issues, but also strong police force.
But is there a fear that he may alienate voters by doubling down on law and order?
Well, I think it cuts both ways, right? So, for a swing audience in Wisconsin, I think it depends on what's going on in the news that day. Yes, they see a tragic shooting and they're very sympathetic to solving systemic racism issues. But when they see buildings burning because of rioting, they want strong law and order.
Elsie, we both know how crucial it is for Joe Biden to energize Black voters on Election Day. Does the visit there and his messaging in Kenosha help?
It absolutely does. It helps. But that's just the beginning in terms of making sure, to your point, that the African-American voters are energized to come out to the polls to support him. Where Kenosha is based is in a county that voted for President Obama twice, but barely voted for President Trump in 2016. So that tells you that that particular area is very purple, if anything, and it can be had by either candidate. So the question is, whose message resonates more or energizes more? The visuals of seeing buildings burning, bloodshed, that certainly seems to line up with what President Trump is talking about. The challenge for Joe Biden isn't simply to show empathy, but also to have a plan. African Americans, particularly those who are very progressive, they're not satisfied with you just simply recognizing that there's racism in the country. They want to know what you're going to do about it.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, LZ. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.